of Corporate Services. It's just turned to 3 o'clock this afternoon, and I think we'll get the meeting started. I know there's a few more joining in, and we have IT on the line to assist with any technical issues. Just a quick note that this session is being recorded for public viewing and will be posted on the Norfolk County website for future viewing. At the April 13th, 2021 Council and Committee meeting, staff was directed to invite Ames Distilling, operating as Cranberry Creek Gardens, to make a presentation for public input on their proposal relating to the Victoria Town Hall as part of the county's call for submission process for arenas and community halls. And I'm pleased this afternoon to welcome Michelle Kloepfer on today's call. This is not being held as a public meeting of council. However, it is a public presentation as part of the procurement process for the call for submission. I'm joined by several county staff members, including Karen Judd, Manager of Purchasing Services, who will be facilitating as part of the purchasing process, Lydia Harrison, our Realty Services Coordinator, and as mentioned, David Hill, Manager of IT Security and Applications, who will be assisting with the recording and technology this afternoon. I'd also like to acknowledge Councillor Van Passen, who has also joined our call this afternoon. With that, I will pass it over to Karen to provide an overview and get started on today's call.
Thanks, Shelley, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As Shelley mentioned, my name is Karen Judd, and I'm the Manager of Purchasing Services here at Norfolk County, and I'm going to be your facilitator for today's session. I'm going to provide you with a brief overview for today's presentation, and then we can get underway. So the purpose of today's session is to provide an opportunity for Cranberry Creek Gardens to provide an overview of their proposal and answer any questions that you might have. I would like to note we have allocated 1 hour for today's session, and we do have note takers that are working remotely to record any questions that you ask so that we can provide the appropriate follow-up to participants and as part of the follow-up report to council. For those that are joining us today's session through the Microsoft Teams link, if you experience technical issues this evening, or when you want to pose a question, please use the raise hand button, which can be found in the bar that appears on your screen. And just a reminder to all of you to be sure to mute and unmute yourself as appropriate. For those that are calling in by phone today, you can hit the *6 or *6 to mute and unmute yourself. And just a quick note on decorum, each of you will have the opportunity to ask your questions following Michelle's presentation. Once your questions have been asked, we will then move on to allow the next participant to speak. And then I will now pass this over to Michelle for her presentation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Kloepfer. I own Cranberry Creek Gardens and Field Station. We're a special events venue and garden venue in Lyndoch. I'm going to be giving you a little presentation today about our submission for the call for proposals with Norfolk County. And I will start sharing my screen for some further information for you. Just 1 second. So if anybody could speak up just to tell me you can see my screen, it should be a picture of the Victoria Town Hall.
Yes, we see it, Michelle.
Great. Okay, awesome. So without further ado, what you guys are all here for to see. So I'll start with a little bit of information about Cranberry Creek Gardens. We're a 7-acre garden and special event venue, and we specialize in intimate, vintage-inspired weddings and community events in Lyndoch. We also have another side of our business, which is a garden center and mini farm shop that we launched this year, and it's based just west of Delhi. My brother and I own the business together, and we've been residents of Norfolk County since we were young, and grew up in Lyndoch, and both live in the area now. My brother just outside of Cortland, and myself in Simcoe. Our goal for our business is to revitalize underused spaces in Norfolk County with community involvement and heritage-conscious restoration, and offer locally grown specialty garden products to the community. What we love about Victoria. So we absolutely love the Old Town Hall, and we love your community. I assume many of you attending this presentation are from Victoria. and almost everyone would at least be from Norfolk County. We love the vibrant and friendly community that you guys have there in Victoria. It's a beautiful spot. We spend lots of time there, and you know, love places like the Good Bread Co. and grab pizza and everything like that. It's a beautiful community. We love how friendly everyone is there, and we think that it reminds us a lot of Lyndoch and the community that we have in Lyndoch. We love the historic charm. The specialty of our business is vintage spaces and historic spaces, and bringing the public into them, and making them filled with life again. We've done a lot of work at Cranberry Creek Gardens to make that happen, and we really hope to be able to do the same at the town hall in Victoria. We love the quiet and peaceful nature of your town. And the style of events we host are very compatible with the usage of that space. We have lots of very small events, ceremonies, and brunch receptions, and would be planning for something even, small things to happen there as well. So we also want to do lots of public events, and you have a vibrant local business community with lots of different businesses in town and great entrepreneurs. And we're not looking to reinvent the wheel. We want to continue with the same relaxed atmosphere of the bookings that currently exist in the town hall space pre-pandemic, and just increase usage of people in the community through public events as well, and partnerships with existing businesses in town. Our goals for the Victoria Town Hall are to assist in the restoration, however we can be useful, and however we can use our expertise to do so. We hope to invest and assist in a detailed cosmetic restoration of the buildings and maintain the historic charm while enhancing the park surroundings. We do a lot of landscaping at Cranberry Creek, if anyone's been there before. And we plan to do some landscaping at the Victoria Town Hall. There's some great garden ideas that we've been throwing around in our minds that we would love to see there. And another goal of ours is to revitalize the space with increased usage. So in the restorations, our experience, we've renovated our buildings at Cranberry Creek Gardens to maintain their historic charm while enhancing their usability. We've upgraded all our washrooms there, and done a lot of work on the space. When we purchased the property, water was pouring in the chapel in the spring, the clapboard was rotting, and the grass was nearly bare. We've painstakingly restored countless features and are proud of the functionality and beauty we brought to the historic buildings that we own, while maintaining and embracing their heritage charm. At the Old Town Hall, we hope to install some beautiful gardens surrounding the property and make all the necessary repairs to the property. I'm sure any of the locals that are on this call know that there's some extra love that could be given to the building to bring it back to its former glory. It's an absolutely beautiful space. It just needs a little bit of extra love nowadays. There are some obvious time-sensitive issues like windows that need immediate attention, and some improvements for functionality and safety to the washrooms and kitchen, like proper ventilation with the stove, the washrooms to be upgraded to be more friendly to people with accessibility issues, and to just be easier to clean. And everything that we have planned is mostly cosmetic, and there's no structural changes planned, if anyone was worried about anything like that. And we're incredibly conscious of the fact that it's a heritage designated property, and we will work with the regulating bodies to ensure that any renovations are in line with regulations. We know that it's really important to maintain all of the character that it currently has, and that's at the forefront of our mind. With our plan to revitalize the space, it is a lovely, beautiful space that is used for lots of meetings and things like that, but we've seen lots of dwindling usage over the past 5 years, and what we could find online, and what we've been talking to people about. So our experience with Cranberry Creek Gardens, that it was historically a private space accessible only through wedding ceremony bookings, aside from a year-end concert. One of our goals in taking over the space was to create a hub for the community that had been missing for some time, as there was closures of other spaces in Lyndoch that kind of created a gap in a community center. Obviously, our efforts have been a little hampered with the pandemic, but we do have some further plans there for when things open up again. And we do have lots of people from the community coming in whenever we open our doors. All of our community events have a charity component to them. So whenever we've had a price at the door to enter a community event, it's all been donated to a local charity, like the Haldeman Norfolk Women's Services or Simcoe Panorama. And we've made many friends along the way in Lyndoch. And, we grew up there and know the community really well. So our vision with the town hall is that we've seen that there's dwindling usage of the town hall over the past 5 years through rental statistics, and we know that you guys love that space. We see potential to have more community engagement and open access to the town hall through public events. We don't want you to have to do a private booking to enjoy the space. If you don't have a shower in the cards or anything like that, we want to be able to have lots of open public use of the space, since that's what it was built for. For regular meetings like with the Women's Institute and things like that, we know there's been questions about that. Nonprofit usage will be no cost or low cost usage of the space, depending on the usage it's for. And all of the fundraisers that have happened in the past in and surrounding the building, like the yearly book sale and community events with the Women's Institute, we're excited to see and help out however we can with that, and want to see the Victoria Town Hall maintain and increase its status as a community hub. We have great neighbors in Lyndoch, and we hope to be great neighbors of yours. I have a couple quotes here that have been provided by a couple of our neighbors that we've gotten to know really well over the past few years. And a couple are in attendance today, and we just want you to know that we do really consider our surroundings. It's really important to us that the people in the community are happy to have us there, and we want to leave a positive mark on everything we do. We designed our structure of events at Cranberry Creek Gardens to ensure that noise isn't an issue for our neighbors. And we always have staff at any events, especially if they're running into the evening. We have multiple staff, and we always are conscious of traffic and parking in all of our, in everything we do. We are a shop local business. Almost everything that we use for our events is purchased locally. So we support our community that we're in as much as we possibly can, using local like breweries, wineries, supplies for events, and DJs and everything like that. So we love our community. We know Norfolk has lots of great things to offer, and we plan to continue that with Victoria Town Hall. So a big question that I've got is what type of events will be happening. So we specialize in casual, well-organized events and envision expanding our brunch, wedding, and ceremony options to the Victoria Town Hall. So we're looking to host small, for our private events that we would do with weddings. It would be small, mostly daytime events, ceremony options, and things like that. We'll also be offering, just like we do in Lyndoch, meeting spaces, class spaces, and private event bookings year-round. I know another concern is noise. Most of the events would be during the day. However, for evening events, just like we do in Lyndoch, there'd be a sound meter to limit noise, and a staff person on site at all times. We don't have any plans to host wild parties, buck and does, or anything like that goes really, really late at night. That's not what we do at Cranberry Creek Gardens. That's not something that we plan on doing, and it's not something we would ever envision in the Victoria Town Hall space. Another thing that we've had questions about is parking. We know that that is a concern for people in Victoria, obviously. Just what we do at Cranberry Creek is we do require, for larger events, we do require a shuttle that's included in all of our packages. That goes to and from hotels. So that really cuts down a lot of our events. There's very few cars in the parking lot, even though we do have a lot of parking space. And we do envision very, very small events at around 20 to 40 guests for most of the events. So based on our historical average, that would be 10 to 17 cars on average if no one took a shuttle. So we don't envision that there would be much more impact on parking than if someone was to host an event based on the current rental opportunities available with the county. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. If you have any questions, I know not everyone's comfortable speaking in a public format like this. Please take down my email or my phone number. Email me to set up a time to chat, and I'd love to answer any questions you have further. We obviously have a Q&A after this, but if you're not comfortable speaking in a public format, I'm more than happy to have a private conversation to answer any questions or concern that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm going to now move on to opening the floor for questions. I'm going to start by allowing those who have called in using a telephone to ask their questions first, and then we will move on to those who have joined through the Teams link. So is there anyone who's joined us today that are using a telephone for this meeting? If you are, just speak up. Okay, as I thought, I think everyone has joined through a Teams link, so that's great. If anyone has questions, just please be reminded to use the raise hand feature and we will move along with questions. I have a question from Nancy Ratz. Go ahead, Nancy. Nancy, are you there?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Are they planning on purchasing the property?
Michelle, would you like to give a response, please?
Yeah, so the Victoria Town Hall, I probably should have included that. It is not for sale. This is an opportunity for leasing the property, I think for a period of 5 years, and then discussions after that. So the Victoria Town Hall is not for sale. This is a solution to try, and my understanding from the county is this is a solution to try and get the building maintained, improved, and filled with more people without ever having to sell it. So.
And then what about like the Lamport Park there? Like, does that go as part of it? Like when you're talking about landscaping?
Yeah, so I was mostly picturing landscaping around the around the building itself. I don't believe that it includes private use of the space in the park because the park is a public park. I think maybe the county could speak to that a little bit, or I don't think the terms of what that is set in stone, but we're not looking to, have private use of the park. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nancy and Michelle. Michelle, can I just ask you maybe to stop sharing your screen so I can see more of the audience here and get their questions?
Sorry, I forgot
okay.
I had to click that to turn it off.
No worries. No worries. Easily done. Thank you. Any other questions from anyone on the line? Oh, I see a hand raised, but unfortunately my computer doesn't allow me to see your name. So if somebody has a question there, you can just go ahead and speak.
I think it's probably me. I'm Steve. I live in Lamport Street. I'm just curious, would all the parking be on the street, or is there any plans to use part of the park for parking?
Did you get that question, Michelle? Would you like me to ask him to repeat it?
Sorry, I think you're a little bit muffled.
Yeah, I think the dog barked at the same time. I just wonder if all the parking would be on street, or if you have any intention of using the park for a car park.
Okay, I think I heard that. So were you asking if we have any intentions of using the park for parking, or all the parking would be on the street? Was that it?
That's correct.
Yes. Yeah. So no, I don't think there's any opportunity to be using the park itself for parking. I don't think that's anything that it's set up for or anything that it would be used for, and it would not look very good. I'm sure the community would not like that very much. So yeah, it would be street parking, and we would be discussing other opportunities for parking spots with local businesses or anything like that. But we do really encourage shuttle use with our guests, and we do have quite minimal parking requirements at most of our events that are larger.
Thank you for the question and thank you for the response, Michelle.
Thank you.
I'm going to now go pass the question over to, I'm sorry, or Steve, I think you still have your hand up there. I see there's other questions, but again, I can't see names. So
I think it's me, actually. My name's Lindsay. I own the property directly to the east of the town hall. So I kind of have two questions here.
Okay.
Question number one is, my understanding is the 999-year lease on the property prohibits any use for commercial ventures. Can you explain how this is being allowed?
Okay, thank you for your question. Michelle, did you have a response for that? Or I have Shelley Darlington who may have a response, or Lydia, who is our property coordinator.
Thanks, Karen. And I'll start the response, and then maybe I can ask Lydia to add any additional context. So the county has conducted a very detailed review of the lease agreement and completed an extensive corporate search relating to that lease agreement of the company. Right at this point, we don't have any additional details to provide you. But certainly that has been reviewed from a realty perspective and a legal perspective. So we can again follow up as Karen mentioned earlier, but I'll pass it to Lydia in case there's any additional comments that you have, Lydia, from a realty perspective.
Thanks, Shelley. No, I don't have anything more to add. We can confirm that the lease is 999 years in length, and we have the lease agreement, and it's being reviewed, as Shelley has said, and I don't have much more to add than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia.
Okay,
Thank
sorry,
you for the
and
question. Sorry.
sorry,
Did you have another question, Lindsay?
I guess, yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Well, it's not really a question, it's more of a comment, just that to be mindful of the property line to the east.
Thank you, Lindsay. We'll make sure to note that. Any other questions? I see someone else has their hand raised there. I'm sorry, I can't see your name. Could you state your name, please?
I think it's probably me. My name is Stephanie Brock.
Hi, Stephanie.
And hi there. I just had a question for Michelle. I'm wondering what charitable work your business has done for the community in the past, and what you would plan to do going forward if you were granted use of this space.
Yeah, so I am for sure the right person to answer that question. So in the past, we've done lots of, basically all of our public events have charitable components to them. So in our past, we've done spring open houses, and there's been donations at the door. Usually, I think we've raised between $900 and $1,200 a year for local charities. Most of the donations that I've done in the past have been to the Haldeman Norfolk Women's Shelter, because I think they're a great organization. If anyone is looking for a place to donate, they are in need of funds, and they're a wonderfully run organization that does really important work. Over Christmas, we know that the Simcoe Panorama had a lot of struggles, so we did photos with Santa, socially distanced photos with Santa, and we donated, I think all of our profits from that were donated to the Simcoe Panorama, and we basically purchased on sale Christmas lights for them and donated Christmas lights. And that was about $500 worth. And then for Victoria, I think it would be based on community feedback. So we know that you guys already have some great nonprofits and some great work that's being done there. So I think that it would be a lot to do with the guidance of the Women's Institute and the Victorian and District community group, because, you know, we want to keep it to the charities that matter the most to the local community. So yeah, I think it would be based on what we would look to support locally, would be based on feedback from those two organizations, I think, because they have a great handle from my conversations with them and my knowledge of their work. They have a great handle on what's needed in the community and what's best supported locally.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Stephanie, for your question. Is there any other questions? Okay.
I have one more question. I'm sorry. I have one more question.
And who's speaking, please? Sorry, can you say your name, please?
My name is Stephanie Brock, and I have one more question if I had a moment.
Yeah, go ahead, Stephanie.
I've read a little bit about the history of the building and its usage, and when you were mentioning selling local products and whatnot, I don't know if you were aware, but the building was not to be used for sale of alcohol, and that was something specifically mentioned in the write-up of the history and the spirit of the building. So I'm just wondering if you can confirm for me, would you be planning to sell alcohol at that location?
Yeah, so yeah, I can confirm that we would be planning to. So it would be, you know, like as I said, our events are quite casual, and it wouldn't be, you know, something like a Buck and Doe. But I know in the past that there has, you know, been events there that have had that served in the past. So I don't think that it's inconsistent with the usage in the modern history. I'm not sure if there is actually verbiage in the lease about not serving alcohol, but I do know that, it's such an old document that, there's changing back from, 1915 to now. I guess the social norms are quite different than what it was. So I think if we stuck with what, was laid out with social norms in 1915 to now, we might, if we didn't adapt to the new world, we might, we can't, it's kind of tough to pick and choose which things you enforce and which you don't, and for which organizations and which you don't. So yeah, I think that in the past there has been use of it for alcohol. So there is a little bit of a precedent there. But again, we're not planning to host anything like Buck and Doe's or, things like that would be heavy alcohol use whatsoever. So.
Thank you, Michelle, for your response, and Stephanie for your question. Lindsay, did you have
one more
I'm
sorry. I just wanted to expand on that. But I just lost my train of thought. So you go ahead and I will be quiet now. Thank you.
Okay. Lindsay, did you have another question?
Yeah, I did actually. Just in regards to the lease, it seems that there's really not a lot of information out there from this group on the call right now about it. However, I have seen an article written by a Norfolk County staff member that says flat out in there that commercial use, alcohol, etc., would not be permitted under the 999-year lease, let alone what was printed in the Victoria Bicentennial book. So I'm just wondering what the difference between all of these documents would be.
I will pass the floor over to Shelley Darlington to provide a response.
Thank you for that question and that comment. As Karen outlined at the beginning of the presentation, the intent of today's meeting is for public input and questions and answers. And certainly it would be appreciated if you can provide any of those details to us, and you can certainly direct them to purchasing@norfolkcounty.ca. As mentioned earlier, we'll be taking all of the comments and the questions received from today, and we'll be preparing a report to council for further consideration and direction. So if you have additional information, that would be greatly appreciated that we can include in the report to council. Again, that email is purchasing@norfolkcounty.ca.
Okay, and then just one more comment on the heritage, since we're having such a strong heritage component of this. Just again, my opinion, a 999-year lease is meant to be forever, especially in a time when people weren't living to the age of, say, 50. So I feel like going against this lease is going against the heritage of Victoria. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay, for your comments on that piece. Is there any other questions? I see someone else has a hand raised. You can go ahead.
Hi, yes, it's Chandra Faulkner. I think it says Jackson on the screen. I'm using my son's Teams account.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask Michelle how it would work for private family functions. My family has rented the town hall for many, many years now, probably 15 years for family Christmas, if not anniversary and other private dinners that we like to celebrate within our family who all live here in Victoria. I just chatting with family, a lot of them don't feel comfortable maybe having a staff member there. We've always had the use of the town hall by renting it and having a great time. And lots of times there's laughs and silliness. And you guys can imagine your own family Christmas at your house, the things that would happen that might not happen if you have say an outsider per se or a staff member there. We've always taken great care of the hall. In fact, many of my family members volunteer to do whatever work or the upbringing or the upkeep, or they're always there if a tree limb falls down and needs to be cut. I'm just wondering how you would go ahead booking that, if there would have to be a staff member there, if there would be a difference versus cooking or just bringing your own food, like a potluck, would that type of thing still be allowed to be used? And if you'd be able to do your own setup and use still the chairs and the tables that are there, if all those things would come to an extra cost. I think that's all I really have at this time for that.
Thank you, Chandra. Michelle, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, for sure. So we do lots of those kind of rentals at Cranberry Creek. They're especially around Christmas and things like that. We usually close up for the season in January because we are a seasonal venue. But we have done family Christmas parties before and things like that. I've had my own family things there as well. So I totally understand where you're coming from. I guess with the staffed member, it would be on a case by case basis that we would discuss, but we would have a staff. I'm not necessarily saying we'd have a staff member like sitting at a table on the side, like looking at everyone. It's more we'd have somebody cleaning the washrooms and things like that, just to make sure that, especially now that, we're also conscious of cleanliness and germs and things like that. And we do also have we have rental options at Cranberry Creek where we just kind of, rent you the space, open the doors, and that person is somewhere else on site while the event's happening, but we're also, able to hear if it's too noisy or things like that. So it isn't an involved staffing is what we're looking for. But when it's an event that might have alcohol at it specifically, that's when we would want to have a staff person present. But again, it's not an involved staffing if you kind of understand my gist there. And our rentals for family events and things like that always include tables and chairs and things like that. So we would be hoping to structure it very similarly to what we do with Cranberry Creek. Again, nothing set in stone. We're still in the process of, the idea of the Victoria Town Hall right now. So we haven't set anything like that. I can't give you super specific information, but I do know we would be planning to continue very similarly to what we do at Cranberry Creek.
Thank you, Michelle, for that clarification, and thank you, Chandra, for your question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Does Michelle have any idea of what the cost would be? Currently, the cost is fairly reasonable, and it just has more of a homey feel than the community center does, which my family also rents for other occasions. But for Christmas, it's nice to have the town hall.
Yeah, so I don't have that. We don't have set anything like that yet. We definitely know that we definitely know that what the rates are right now. We know that we'll be able to keep those rates for nonprofits. But we haven't set anything in stone for family things. We do know that it will be a more affordable price point because it is a less involved booking. Weddings we do charge more for because there's a lot more work that goes into them for planning and things like that. So we are absolutely conscious of that, and but we don't have the pricing right now. But we would, once we talked further with the county and we had the structure of, what our costs were overall, and we got a better idea of that, then we would be able to set that and let you know based on kind of how we set it up with staffing and things like that. So, but that's a great question. And obviously we know that the community needs answers about that. So that will be one of the first things that we would probably work on.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
I'm going to pass the floor over to David Judd, who is next.
Thank you. Some of you may know I'm the reporter for the Port Dover Maple Leafs, so I'm writing a story about today's presentation. And I'm interested in how the county might benefit from this arrangement. Would the county be getting a share of the rental money?
Do you want me to speak to that, Karen?
I can pass it over to Shelley Darlington.
Why don't you start, Michelle, and then
okay.
we can pass it over to me.
Yeah, so I think the idea behind this call for submissions was basically to take the operating costs off of the county's plate and have it taken over by another organization, whether it was a for-profit or non-profit organization. So they wouldn't receive a share of the rental, but they would be relieving themselves of the cost of, operating the building, staffing the building, and things like that. The benefits what I see as the benefits to the community is, Norfolk County could definitely use more wedding venues. We're fully booked at Cranberry Creek Gardens. I know almost all local wedding venues are as well. And it is an opportunity for growing other businesses, as wedding venues are quite a hub for economic activity, driving overnight stays, driving other businesses, like the wedding lounge that you have in Victoria, and creating a lot of economic impact. So I think that, yeah, it's offsetting. My understanding is the goal is to offset the operating costs of the buildings with this call for submission proposal. But I think having an organization like ours take over the property would have a great economic impact on Norfolk County.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks
And
for the question, David. One more question?
One more question.
Sure.
I'm not sure you'll answer this, but I usually ask this question anyway to businesses that come to council, and that is, you're looking at doing some decorating and renovating and so on. So how much money ballpark are you looking at putting into this?
Yeah, so basically all of the renovations we'd have to do would be approved by Norfolk County themselves. So we're not really allowed to do anything probably other than paint without approval from Norfolk County. And I'm sure there's nothing we're able to do outside without approval from Norfolk County and the Heritage Organization. So we really don't have any kind of an idea of what we're going to spend because we don't know what we're allowed to do. I do know, we've put many thousands of dollars into Cranberry Creek. We are looking to invest in the property with renovations. But again, like I said, we can't really give a figure because we don't know what we're allowed to do. So.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, David, for your questions.
Yeah,
next, I had Nancy as her hand up next. You can go ahead, Nancy.
Hi, I was wondering about catering. Do you have to, if you rent the facility from Michelle, do you have to use their catering, or you can hire your own caterer if you have something specific that you wanted for an event?
Yeah, so at Cranberry Creek, we allow outside caterers and our preferred caterers. We basically recommend our preferred caterers just because it's easy and they know our space. But we've never had any property that we've had that you need to bring in a specific caterer, because that's a great appeal to a lot of spaces. But that's a great question.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Nancy, and thanks, Michelle. Next, I had Stephanie with her hand up.
I'm sorry, were you speaking to me, Stephanie?
Yeah, you have your hand up, Stephanie.
Yes, I do.
Question?
Yeah, you cut out. That's all.
That's okay. Sorry.
Yes, I do have a question. I was wondering, the community center in Victoria is a building that has historically, in our recent past, been used for all sorts of events. And it is also something I think the county is looking at finding an alternate use for, or having a partnership with another community member service. I just wondered if you had considered that building, because that seems to be something that's more suited to your purpose. It has parking. It's historically been used for alcohol sales and fundraisers and other events in the community. So I just wondered if you were aware of that building.
Hey, yeah, that's a great question. I am aware of that building. Our business we're looking for unique spaces to host very intimate events in, and so that didn't really fit. That didn't really fit with what our business is, and we like working with heritage buildings, and that's just what we've been successful with at Cranberry Creek Gardens, and it's kind of what our passion is. So we had looked at all of the buildings that were up for the call for submissions, and the only one that really fit our needs and what we our goals of improving and revitalizing a historic space was the Victoria Town Hall.
Thank you, Michelle, for your response and for your question, Stephanie. I'm going to go over to the caller. There's another caller. Lindsay, you're not quite next. There was someone before you, but I'm sorry, I can't see your name. You can go ahead, whoever that was.
I'm not sure, that might be me. My name's Leslie. I actually own Fabulously Vintage. It is a vintage dress boutique, as well as an intimate bridal boutique as well. So it's more just a comment, and I know it kind of goes along the lines of what David from the Maple Leaf was speaking to. It's the fact of bringing in businesses to Victoria. It's not just my little business, but other businesses that would be able to benefit, even ones right in Victoria, like the Wedding Lounge and other local caterers, people that cater. The fact that our vineyards are becoming very popular, as well as our local craft breweries. And this goes part and parcel in with everything that is Norfolk County. The Victoria Town Hall is vintage. And I think Michelle at Cranberry Creek would be true to that, and would be definitely beneficial for entrepreneurs within the county, as well as people within the county and the county itself.
Thank you, Leslie, for your comments. I'm going to pass the next question over. Lindsay, I think you were next in line I have here.
Yeah, sorry, this kind of goes hand in hand with Stephanie's question about the location being suitable for a wedding. Being the property owner right next door, it doesn't take a lot of noise. I'm talking conversation in order for me to be disrupted within my house. If windows are open and people are outside talking, obviously I can hear every conversation, but there was also an event there in the not too distant past that involved a DJ. The noise coming from the hall was apparently within acceptable limits. However, my house was shaking. Every time that front door opened, I felt like someone was in my bedroom. And that was also with me having an air conditioning unit window shaker going at all times. So I'm just wondering, when you say alcohol consumption, DJs, et cetera, how are you going to be sure in a heritage building that is not built soundproof that neighbors aren't going to be disrupted?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's why I included some information about that in the presentation, but I can absolutely speak further to that. So I think that, like, my understanding of in the past, the town hall was basically just you pay a rental fee, they open the doors, they leave, and they lock up after. So I think a big part of minimizing that impact on the neighbors is having a staff member present, especially when it is in the evening. So in evening events, you know, we're very conscious of that at Cranberry Creek Gardens. You know, we don't. For example, we have someone keeping an eye on the front door at all times so that it closes behind people, and we ensure that, you know, we have a noise monitor in place so that throughout the evening it gets quieter and quieter. We only work with our own DJ, which is we only work with our own DJ, and if they aren't using our DJ, then we usually have a sound tech there at the event to make it in order to limit that noise. We don't allow I'm forgetting the terminology, but somebody's gonna make fun of me for forgetting it. But basically, we don't allow those like speakers that have bass at our facilities because they're not necessary in an old building, because they're meant to, you know, they're meant to be able to carry sound within them. So we have a variety of. My husband just texted me, ha ha ha, you mean subwoofers, Michelle? So. He could hear me from the other room, and he's in the music industry, so he thought that was a very funny thing to say. So basically, yeah, so we have a lot of things that we really take into consideration at Cranberry Creek Gardens that we would absolutely have in place at Victoria Town Hall. We do understand how close it is to your house, and we do understand absolutely why there's a concern from your end about a potential project here. In my opinion, I believe that events there would be less impactful to you than the previous method of rental, just because it would be, you know, like we would have a staff member there. It would be our name, you know, it would be our name if something went wrong, and we try to be the best neighbors we can be.
Okay,
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not sure that, I guess you probably don't understand how little noise it takes for my house to shake. While I appreciate everything that you just said, when I say it doesn't it doesn't take much, my neighbor has his stereo going across the road and my house shakes. Like, it does not take much. So yeah, I have a lot of concerns about my well-being and my quality of enjoying my property being disrupted, for sure.
Thank you, Lindsay, and we'll make sure we have those comments. We've noted those comments from you. Next, I have for a question, I have Nancy. You can go ahead, Nancy.
Hi, sorry, Megan. This is to Norfolk County. Were there any other proposals other than Michelle's for the town hall? Or submissions for proposal?
I think at this point, we're just going to discuss the proposal from Michelle.
Okay.
We can, yes, thank you.
Okay,
I'm going to move on
thanks.
to the next question from Melissa.
Hi there. I'm Melissa McClay from Blackbird Photography. I am a very local, I grew up the road from Victoria, wedding photographer, and I shoot a lot of weddings over at Cranberry Creek. I mean, a lot. And I'm just going to like show my support that she's creating really good jobs. It's the only reason I survived 2020. And that she actually, like, her staff members are actually really, really good. The weddings that they basically pick, they're really good. They're mature people, they're adults about things. They're not crazy partiers. So I hope that helps some people. Like they're not like these young weddings where there's kids running around, not actual kids, but the younger folk running around with alcohol and they're screaming and the music's loud. These are nice, intimate events. They're most of the time the music is just a little bit louder than conversation, and they're really good people. So you don't have to really, I don't know, I can't generalize every wedding, but not every client is that stereotypical wedding party. They pick really good clients for their venues.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa, for your comments. I will now move on to Stephanie Brock with a question or a comment.
Hi there. I just wanted to say that we're all really good people in the community. And also, I might have missed it, but Michelle, how many events were you thinking on average you would be having at the hall during your peak time?
Yeah, so I hadn't actually included any information about that. I think like it would really depend on kind of once we went over the whole plan, once we have all the details of the lease and things like that, and we got some feedback from the community and things like that. I can't see it being for a wedding more than one a week, but we'd have public events as well and community events and private rentals, as a couple people had asked about, meetings and things like that. So it's hard to put a number on it, but I know that we'd want to have a diverse usage, and probably a little more diverse usage than we do have at Cranberry Creek Gardens, just because we know it is in a town center, whereas Cranberry Creek Garden is kind of on the edge of town. So and there's not as many people in Lyndoch as there are in Victoria. So we know that there would be more people that would be looking to do public things. So it would be a more viable option to have more frequently. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Does that help?
Yes, it helps. But I'm just wondering if you could, like, all told, if Chandra's family wanted the hall for her Christmas event and it coincided with the date of a paying customer, who would get preference in that situation?
Yeah, so the customer that booked first would get preference, just like I think that it works with Norfolk County and any other rental property now. So whoever books the property first would be the one who secured the date, and then I think that like we don't book we book weddings a certain amount out, but I mean I think that we do regularly opening rentals, but I wouldn't expect that. I think what you're getting at is everything going to be booked with weddings, and there's not going to be any usage for people in Victoria. And I can guarantee you that won't be the case. So.
And I'm also wondering about how many events would be going on during the week, so that we would know about how much more traffic would be in the village. Because that does impact our streets. You're saying 17 vehicles. That doesn't sound like a lot to you, but to us on that street, it actually is quite a few. The use of the hall in its past does not have that many cars parked along Old Brock Street. There is a lot of traffic, especially big truck traffic that's zooming by on weekends, evenings, and during the day. And it's just something that could create a dangerous situation is all.
Thank you, Stephanie, for your comments. I'm just going to remind everyone we have 10 minutes remaining in our question and answer period for the rest of this session. So I do want to move through other questions. Michelle, I don't know if you can give a quick response to Stephanie's last question there.
Yeah, I can for sure. And that's something that we're very cognizant of. Like, I feel like 17 might be like an upper limit kind of thing. We do, like I said before, we do really encourage, for most weddings, we encourage shuttles. And we do, I can't give you a specific number because we really don't know what the future will look like. I can hope that we would have a lot of bookings, but I would expect a lot would be local and intimate, and we are absolutely conscious of the fact that we do need to have a really solid traffic and parking plan, and we do know that that will affect the community. So that is something we're definitely thinking of, and really appreciate any feedback that anybody has on that. But I don't expect it to be much more than some of the events that do happen there during non-pandemic times. So
thank you, Michelle. I'm going to pass the floor over to Gertrude Smith. Gertrude, are you there? Maybe you might be muted, Gertrude. Are you there? I see you're still muted on your, from what I can see. There you go. Nope. I'm going to pass it, Gertrude, we'll come back to you. I'm going to pass it to Jackson Faulkner, please.
Hi, it's Chandra. I just had a question for Michelle in regards to the shuttle bus. Victoria Road isn't really wide. I'm just curious as to, or Old Brock Street, where you were thinking of unloading the shuttle and where the shuttle would then be parked after, as both side streets are usually fairly busy and there's not a lot of width there to park a shuttle bus as well. Even when there's sometimes just small cars parked in front of the town hall, there's not a lot of space for other drivers to get through, especially as someone had mentioned the quite a few of the big rigs that go through. It's already sometimes a danger, and I know many of us have up go slow signs posted on all of our lawns because, as you can imagine, more traffic means busier streets and people speeding, not paying attention.
Yeah, so we do have a really good partnership with a school bus company. So we use school buses, which I mean, I expect go through your town twice a day, if not way more times like that than that, 5 days a week. And yeah, so like our expectation would be they would just drop the clients off, they'd get off, and they, when it was time for pickup, they would come in. They wouldn't be parked for long times in town or anything like that. It would be a reasonably quick loading and offloading. I think that, you know, every time I've been there on a Saturday, I have which is quite often, at least every other week, to go pick up some good bread co. I really haven't seen anything parked out front of the town hall. So I know that there is, you know, there can be parking issues and stuff like that. And I'm, you know, I'm not there every day of the week, so you would know much better than I would. But I do think that, you know, we use a lot of the shorter school buses as well, which might have less of an impact for the smaller events. And yeah, I hope that helps answer the question.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I'm going to go back to Gertrude. Gertrude, did you have a question for us? No. Okay, I'm not sure if we're having some technical difficulties with Gertrude. Are there any other questions around the table? Well, I think that wraps up today's session with no other further questions. Gertrude has just joined back in, so I think we're going to just pass it to Gertrude for a moment. I think.
Hi.
Hi, Gertrude. Go ahead.
Yes. I've spoken to Michelle already prior to this meeting, and what she wants to do sounds good. The only concern I have is I belong to the Women's Institute, and of course, we are a keeper of history, and we would like to be kept in the loop with what lease is going to be made. Would that be possible through Lydia Harrison?
Lydia, did you have a response, or Shelley Darlington? I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for that question. And absolutely. So the information that will go forward to council will be available to the public as well. Once that agreement is finalized and we have authorization to execute it.
Thank you, Shelley, and thank you for
I
your
just
question,
had a comment
Gertrude.
about that. I've reviewed the lease, and it looks as though that they need the permission of the women's group in order to sublet this property.
Can I ask, is this Gertrude speaking?
No, this is Stephanie speaking, and I've looked
hi.
at the 999-year lease, and I just wanted to let you know my opinion is that the Norfolk County does need the Women's Institute agreement on this before subletting to the next person.
Thank you for that comment, Stephanie. Again, as I mentioned earlier, that document has gone through for legal review. You know, rest assured, the staff and legal are reviewing the documents to ensure what is brought forward to council for review and further direction. Council has all of the information. And as mentioned, if you have additional details, then please send them to purchasing@norfolkcounty.ca.
Thank you, Shelley. One last question from Leslie, and then I'm going to pass it to Councillor Van Passen. Leslie, go ahead, please.
Hi, so this is just to further my comment a little bit further. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, it's a little muffled, but go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, it's just, I know Norfolk County has had financial issues. So I think a venue like this, and as Norfolk is starting to become popular, like I said before, with the craft breweries and our wineries, becoming a highly rated destination spot for wedding venues would bring more into the county revenue wise as well. I totally appreciate and understand where Stephanie is coming from. But I'm looking at the whole picture as well. And the fact of the Women's Institute, I think Michelle at this point in time would be willing to keep the integrity of the town hall and keep that vintage spirit, if you will. So it's more just another statement than a question at this point in time.
Thank you, Leslie. That's much appreciated. I'm going to pass it to Councillor Van Passen for some closing remarks.
Yes, thank you. I just want to thank Michelle for the presentation and thank the community for getting involved and the staff for listening. And if there's anyone who has any other questions or comments, that if they can't get it through to the county on the internet, that they can always get a hold of me and I will forward them on to staff to put us together as part of the whole package. So if anyone wants to get a hold of me personally, that's fine, and I will forward their comments on to staff. So thanks everyone for joining us today.
Thank you, Councillor Van Passen. I just want to thank everyone who's joined on the call and Michelle for her presentation. There's quite a bit of passion around the community of Victoria, and we really do appreciate your comments and interest in this opportunity and in the call for submission process. Again, questions and comments can be submitted to purchasing@norfolkcounty.ca. The live stream, the recording of this event will be posted on the Norfolk County website for future viewing. And there will be a follow-up council report that will be presented as well. Again, thanks everyone for joining. We really appreciate you joining us today, and I want to wish you all a good afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, how do I get out of this sucker?